Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. I am so pumped up about this episode. So much to talk about. We have the Snyder Cut finally came down. And watching that movie gave me a whole new appreciation of hatred towards Wonder Woman 84. So I want to dive into that. And then we get to talk about the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is very exciting. Meat's got some ice cream to review for you to share. He's very excited about this. He's on the hunt, and I'm telling you. And once you know why, once he shares why he's on the hunt for this special ice cream, you'll understand completely. And our third man in will be joining us, and we'll dive more into a lot of the NFL talk that's going on. Still a lot of activity happening right now, and we're going to just dive into that and discuss some of its fantasy relevance. Let me welcome my partner, Big Meat. Big Meat, how's it going tonight?
It's going good. I'm excited for this episode as well. It's not going to be as long as the last one, Azar, since you left us. You had to run off, and Jarvis and I, it was just us two, and things went a little bit off the rails there as we just continued talking and talking. We tried to push it to 3 hours, but even I ran out of things to talk about. So hopefully this one.
You ran out of praising yourself. I when I listened to that part and it extended, I was like, oh, it's. When I left, I'm listening to the podcast. Oh, I left at an hour and 18. This couldn't have gone that long. When it kept on going and going and going, and
well, we had to throw in the March Madness part of it, because then we just started rambling about March Madness, and then we wanted to say bye, and then it took us like 10 minutes just to say bye to each other, and it's this is what happens when you leave the two of us alone.
Well, I knew it was a problem as soon as Jarvis said, well, Azar's not here to keep us in check. So I was like, oh no, what happened? Then we dove into The Rock. See,
yes,
the problem with him is he sucks you into things. Like, you're back into talking about something that no one else is talking about. Like, we moved on from The Rock, and he finds a way. It's like going back into trench warfare. It's like going back into like the Mandalorian, about something that Mandalorian ended around Christmas, and he's still. Like, because he's never watched
but Young
it.
Rock is still going. It's still going. And in fact, actually, I should say the Young Rock was actually the best episode last night. The best episode of Young Rock was last night.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it.
Maybe when Jarvis comes on, we'll talk about it even some more.
So what struck me the most was when you guys started taking credit for things and praising yourself. And Jarvis couldn't take you praising yourself, so he wanted to make sure he praised himself for some activities that he did. So I was like, oh, these two guys.
Yes. Well, you know what? And the thing is too, when I had a couple of notes here that I wanted, so I actually wanted to give Jarvis some credit, but he wouldn't let me get to that point. He interrupted me in the middle of praising myself. And I said, no, Jarvis, I'm going to praise you too. Just give me a minute here. Let me just talk about myself first. Damn it.
He was not going to let you go without giving himself some pat on the back. It was interesting, but now I realize my important role to the podcast. I think everybody else can appreciate what role I do serve. I may not serve enough with the, I don't drink enough on the podcast to get silly, I guess, but I do keep us within a respectable time limit, I guess. Yeah, I still didn't even finish it. I haven't even finished the podcast. I'm still listening to it. That is what I could not finish. Yeah.
Hey, we got to have a little bit of craziness. You got to have a little mix, right? Everybody is the same. It's going to get boring.
I haven't heard any feedback on the podcast, surprisingly. No criticism. I forgot to survey. I got to figure out the survey on that one.
When the cat's away, the mice will play.
Oh, and the mice did play for 2.5 hours. Oh, man. Anyways, all right, Big Meat. I don't think we have a new drink to offer, but I know you've been excited about this because this is right up your alley. And a new brand of ice cream is coming down.
It is.
And it sounds like Jarvis has found it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he said he did see this ice cream at a in Middle Earth somewhere where he lives. And what I've heard is a lot of the other places that people have found it's sold out. And so this stuff is flying off the shelf apparently. But in relation to what we've talked a lot about on this podcast is the Screwball peanut butter whiskey. They now have their own Screwball peanut butter whiskey flavored ice cream.
Oh, sounds so
which
good.
Is, the way they describe it, it's basically the peanut butter chocolate swirl whiskey ice cream. And there is whiskey in it, right? I mean, there it is. You can't. You got to be 21 to buy it. It's not just like a flavored ice cream, non-alcoholic. So I'm on the hunt to find this stuff because whiskey. I love whiskey. I love my ice cream. That's my number one weakness when it comes to any type of sweets or any type of dessert. I'll eat a whole. I'm telling you. I think I've said this before. If there was an ice cream eating competition, I I might win it. I really think that I might win this. If there's a competition where whoever can eat the most ice cream in a limited amount of time, I might end up winning that competition. So
Well, I
when I
believe you.
saw this, I said, "You got the best of both." And you know how much I love my Screwball peanut butter whiskey.
I
It
know.
certainly is by far the best peanut butter flavored whiskey that's on the market today. And they were able to combine that together with ice cream. That's just a dream come true right there. So
Wow.
I
Big meat
can't wait.
kryptonite. Big meat's
I can't
kryptonite
wait.
right there.
Yeah,
Oh.
I haven't tried it yet. I'm on the hunt.
So
I'm on the
I'm
hunt.
just
I will
wondering,
find it.
as a man who's been down to Universal with you, is it gonna surpass your butterbeer, your love of butterbeer?
Mm.
Because I know, Big Meat loves his butterbeer when
And they
he's
do
down
have
in
the butterbeer
Hogwarts,
flavored ice cream down there as well. Yes, that is good stuff. That is
which
very
is
good
what we
stuff.
talked about. Why he could not get on the rides because of all the butterbeer he was drinking down there. Little
Every
carried
every
away.
every time I go, I always got to say, all right, I got to have at least the regular butterbeer, like the drink right on ice. They also have a frozen butterbeer, and they also have an ice cream version butterbeer. So I got to try all three when I go to that park. One for when I first get there, another one midway through the day, then another
Yep.
one before I leave.
And why he couldn't get on the Hogwarts ride, I couldn't. I don't understand. On the Hagrid ride, I apologize. He got on the Hogwarts Express.
That's
The big
right.
train
That's
was
right.
able to move him from park to park. But well, Big Meat, that does sound delicious. For someone that can't have ice cream anymore due to his milk allergy, I am very jealous. I hope they do think of us people that can't have dairy and maybe make a non-dairy version because that just sounds incredible.
Mm,
Um,
it
all
looks
right,
incredible.
so now we've got the dessert out of the way. I did want to give some props actually to two because I brought this up the other day because we're in Lent for you guys that are Catholic. Your Lent is almost over for some of us who are celebrate Orthodox or Greek Easter that some people know it as. Um, Finding fried seafood, I love fried seafood, and to find a place that serves the best seafood is something that I started going on. And what I realized, just to give a couple shout outs, Drake at House of Pizza, if you like fried clams, they have a platter there that is incredible for $15. It is like a heaping serving of fried clams. And I know that because my son ordered it. And I'm going to give props to my brother who did the nice thing. He took me and my kids out for lunch one day, and I didn't think he realized when you're trying to feed my kids, if he doesn't realize they don't just eat like they'll get chicken tenders. I have a son. It's like comical. He'll try to order the most expensive thing on the menu because he just doesn't order anything basic. So he ended up ordering the fried clam plate. It was amazing looking, and I ended up grabbing fried haddock from this place on the Drake at Pelham line called Mike's Express Pizza. The portion was ridiculous. Again, $15, but the slab of haddock that they had on it, it blows away anything that Brown's from portion size. I know Brown's has great seafood, but their portions have gotten smaller over the
They
years. Like,
have.
and you pay
Yes,
a
they
lot of
have.
money. Like you're paying a premium. I feel like the portions are just, they're okay. When I got this plate at home, I mean, it was like two giant slabs of haddock, and I ended up splitting it with my kids. It was so much food. So,
Mm.
so just a couple shout outs for people. If you're still in Lent, looking for fried fish, or you're just in the mood on your driving around, highly recommend those two locations: Drake House and Mike's Express Pizza.
Yeah, that's
Both,
good to know.
yeah.
I've tried Drake and House for some of the other food that they have there. In fact, they actually had a pretty good cheesesteak. I don't think we tested the cheesesteak from Drake and House when we did our world famous cheesesteak podcast. But and I love the fried clam plate. So I haven't tried a Drake and House of pizza, so I got to try that out. There is a place up in Wells, Mike's Clam Shack, that I might have had the best fried clam plate that I've ever had in my life. It was that
Oh,
good, and it was loaded. It was really the best I've ever had. So I like to compare it. So that's a
well, that's good. I
good
think we
tip.
I think that's a good idea for a summer podcast, is to talk about the best fried seafood, because we're staying local because it's winter, but if you're driving up to Maine has some of the best fried seafood places in the area. So I hear there's all kinds of fried clams and stuff up in Maine that I've heard all these great reviews about. So that might be a worthwhile podcast, just to talk about different places. We're going to weigh like 300 pounds by the end of the summer, but I'd love to go try to make some recommendations that way.
Well, and God forbid if I get my peanut butter whiskey ice cream too, and so eat the fried clam plate together with the peanut butter whiskey ice cream for dessert.
Oh
man,
you're gonna have your own special on like one of those channels where they like, oh, my friend is 500 pounds and.
Forget about going on the Hagrid ride after that. That'd be one and done. That's it.
I got to tell you, if you come into these Zoom calls with one of those little red scooters because you can't move around anymore because you gotten too big, and you just have to kind of roll into the screen, that would be priceless. All right. So I wanted to give a shout out to those two places that I got to try some of their seafood. Completely, again, if you love fried seafood right now during the winter months, and you're craving it, go there. All right, Big Meat. Two things dropped that you and I are both looking for this past weekend. I'm going to start with the Snyder Cut, because for the Justice League Snyder Cut, for those who don't know what we're talking about, this has been the long-awaited version of Justice League that was driven by the fans. For those who don't know, this was not like some Hollywood, they got this idea, hey, why don't we do this? It was really driven by the fans, really wanted to see what his vision for Justice League was. And I got to say, I'm not going to talk about it. I'll let you kind of share your thoughts first. I liked it. I know it's long, but I thought he did a great job by adding chapters in it. So if you're someone that couldn't make it through, I didn't make it through the 4 hours. I started it late at night, and I knew it was a long thing, but when it had chapters, I was like, oh, that's perfect. I know when I'll just cut off after a chapter and finish it later. So he does purposely give you chapters so you can break it up. You don't have to force yourself through 4 hours. But I really liked it, and it was so much more enjoyable than the original Justice League. So, Big Me, I don't know what you thought about it, but I'll give you a chance to share your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I did force myself through watching it for 4 hours. So it just got to the point where I said, you know what? I've gone 3 hours in. What's another hour? I'm going to stay up, and I ended up staying up till I think 1:30 to end up finishing the rest of it. But I do got to say, yeah, I agree. It was much better than the version that they came up with. But I didn't think it still wasn't great. I remember watching it being like, okay, it's clearly better. I'm definitely invested, but there are so many slow motion scenes, which kind of made the action scenes drag out a bit. They could have easily cut out, I think, an hour or two even. And I think it would have been really great. Then I think it would have been it just would have been as great as it could be. But it did make more sense, more backstory for the characters, especially for characters like the Flash and Cyborg. Cyborg in particular, I do feel that actor that plays him actually had a point with how Joss Whedon didn't do his character any justice. I think he kind of cut him out for whatever reason. All right, you're kind of a nobody character, so I'm just gonna throw you in there doing nothing throughout the whole movie. And he actually had a really important role in the Snyder cut version. So yeah, I think between him and Flash and just the whole story made a lot more sense, because the theater version was just, I thought, was one big mess of a movie. You got two directors coming in, they have two different creative directions, they have two different visions on how they want to show this thing, and that never works out. I'm shocked that Warner Brothers released a movie like that to say, okay, we're going to bring in two different directors. At least bring in a director with the same mindset as Zack Snyder, right? I mean, just to come in and say, okay, follow that same format. But they brought in somebody from the Marvel world, and they tried to, I guess, Marvelize it, So, and it just didn't work. It didn't work. So I'm glad they actually released this one, the Snyder Cut. I remember reading online, fans were hoping that it would come out. They were pushing for it, and it's never happened before. So I always used to say it's not going to happen. Like all these fans, well, I'd love to see it, but it's not going to happen. And then when they announced that it was going to happen, I said, whoa, this is going to start a new precedent because no other movie has done this before. So
Yeah.
it was good. It was good.
So regarding that, when you learn more of the backstory of, why they brought in Wheaton, why Snyder left, and how much production, like a lot of the movie was done, right? But the executives at Warner Brothers brought in Whedon because there was like, Snyder was dealing with a personal crisis with his family, and sadly his daughter committed suicide. Who, if you wondered at the end, that's who he dedicates the movie to. That's traumatic. His wife is the producer, he's the director. They're dealing with this trauma. The executives are up his ass to make it a Marvel movie. Basically, they wanted the comedy. They wanted shorter. They basically said it's just like they wanted to Marvelize it. Like they saw that recipe, and it doesn't. If you can't just randomly just create that. That's why the Justice League didn't make sense to me. It's like it started adding in that Marvel humor where these characters, it didn't make sense, and it just felt like it was forced. And you notice with the new movie, a lot of that crap was cut out. There was some humor in it, but not the corny Wheaton humor that it just didn't make sense for a dark movie to randomly start having the giggles. It's like, it doesn't fit. So I thought they did a good job at that. The one thing that drove me, I completely agree. The character development was great. I liked the new villain. I liked the villain of Darkseid. He's got that Thanos feel to him. It made the villain of Steppenwolf make more sense. You didn't understand what he was doing. And then you had to better understand why he was so committed to finding the 3 boxes and all this and who he's working for. And you felt like there was a greater story beyond this random character all of a sudden showing up to Earth looking for these random boxes and why they were the fact that they showed it, I don't want to spoiler, but like if you watched Batman and Superman movie, Superman dies in that movie. And they used that in the beginning of him dying is what activated the ball. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. I like the story just tied in so much better. So here's my thing that drove me nuts. And I texted you right away. That opening scene with Wonder Woman at the bank fighting those terrorists, which was very graphic, violent. They were killing. And she was graphic. Like the way she killed these people. She didn't lasso them like some rodeo clown. She actually went in and killed them.
They cut out the theater version. They cut out that scene where she actually like killed people.
So that scene had more action, and it was so much more exciting of a character, like badass Wonder Woman character. That if you like the Wonder Woman movie, the first one, if you grew up following Wonder Woman, you liked Wonder Woman. If regardless if you're watching Justice League the cartoon or the TV show with Linda Carter. If you liked Wonder Woman's character, she was such a badass in this version of the movie of Justice League that I really enjoyed it. I was like, why did they deviate from this? And I wonder if Justice League Snyder Cut version came out, would Wonder Woman 84 be different? Like, could they have gone this soft route if they already portrayed her in this stern, like, powerful version?
I agree. They want her to be a sappy version of today's Wonder Woman. Like they don't want her killing anybody. They don't want, and that's why it was disappointed because it made for a great character in the Snyder Cut version. I agree that scene, and I think you were going to touch on that. Is that scene is better than the entire 1984 movie. I'd rather watch that scene over again than watch the 1984 movie. And it's funny, like we made fun of like that scene in 1984. She's in the mall, right? And she's lassoing the bad guys, and then she swings across and she lassos a couple other guys, and then she slaps. And it's like she just took out a bunch, like a whole army of guys with machine guns in that museum in this movie. So it just didn't make a lot of sense how she was able to do that in the other movie. But I still think she did have some sappy scenes in it. And I still think she's not a good actress. I don't know how you feel about her being. I don't think she's a good actress. I think she plays a good Wonder Woman. I just don't think she's a good. I think she's very dry. She's very dry and very dull and very boring in her acting.
Man, she's not very dynamic, but she did such a good job. I wouldn't really go out and watch a movie with Gal Gadot and say, "Oh, I got to watch her in this role, this drama, or whatever she's doing." I
No,
find
but
her character boring. But
I
as a
would
Wonder Woman,
say
she did a good job.
I would say she is the female version of Nicolas Cage. That's
Oh,
I'm gonna go with I'm
that's
gonna go
harsh.
as far to say that. Yes.
That's harsh.
Yes. She
Oh
is the female
man.
version. And by the way, I know you crack on Ben Affleck a lot. He was not a bad Batman. I guess you could say really anybody could play Batman, but
No,
who
that's
could
not
play a
true. No,
good
that's not.
Bruce?
Val Kilmer cannot play Batman. Let's not get crazy now.
No, no, no. Wait a minute. Wait. You don't let me finish.
All right.
Batman versus Bruce Wayne. Anybody could play. Anybody could put the suit on, and they could CGI him up, and he'll be Batman. Not everybody could play a good Bruce Wayne, and I thought he was a really good Bruce Wayne. He didn't overact the part. He was just kind of.
I'll give you
just
that.
grunts. He just kind of grunts throughout the movie, and I think you've said this before about actors. If you're not a good actor, don't talk. Don't say a lot of. Don't have a lot of speaking parts. And I didn't think he had a lot of speaking parts, so. It just it worked.
Right.
It worked.
I'm with you. I felt in this one they cut out a lot of Ben Affleck. It felt like he didn't talk as much, and even like what's that Aquaman's character. I felt like he didn't even talk that much. It's like because he's not a great actor either. It's like don't talk.
Yeah.
Just
I
flex,
think they tried to
do your thing.
Yeah, when Josh Whedon came in, they tried to build up his character and Batman's character. And then everybody else was just kind of like there just for whatever.
Yeah.
But in the original version, it seemed like the Flash and Cyborg had more of a bigger role, and Batman and Aquaman had lesser roles. It just seemed like that was the direction that they wanted to take. But
so do you
anyway,
think
it was good. It was good. I did like it.
So here's the conspiracy theory: if the executives had their fingers up Whedon's ass, like it sounds like they were the puppet masters. This is what we want, Whedon. Just do what we're going to tell you. We want it short. We want it comical. Do your Marvel thing to it. Is it possible that they asked him to focus on that Aquaman character because they knew Aquaman the movie was coming out soon and they wanted to hype him up a little bit and build it up? Because it seemed to me that's where they were focused on. It was a lot of Batman, a lot of Aquaman, and a lot of not a lot of Flash. What's the other one? Batman, Aquaman,
Cyborg.
and who is it?
Cyborg and Wonder Woman.
No. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Batman. Like those are the three characters. I felt like they had a lot of role in the original Justice League. And I felt like Superman kind of took a little backdrop, and Flash and Cyborg were like behind the scenes kind of thing. Yeah. And this movie, it changed.
I thought so you were saying earlier too, just on my last point here, is the Superman versus Batman movie I thought was awful. I didn't think it was that good. And there was zero humor in it, like zero. Like there was nothing really fun about that movie. I was a little surprised watching this Snyder Cut that some of the humor, because he didn't use any of the Joss Whedon reshoots or anything like that. So everything you saw in this one was Snyder's version. And I did like some of the humor in this. I was actually kind of surprised. I was waiting for those scenes not to appear because I thought there were scenes that Whedon put in there because they were a little bit of humorous. They were funny. So I actually liked I liked what Snyder did, and he put a little bit of humor in it, but kept the darkness to it. And I did love that it's rated R. That's what made it even great. A couple of F-bombs, a couple of gory scenes, right up my alley.
Yeah, and a lot of kill, a lot of body count. And you know what I did like is I was reading something on Screen Rant, and you know how they were talking about, like you were saying earlier, they focused on Cyborg's backstory. They focused a little bit more on Flash. And one guy just wrote this thing, and he said, they did the right thing. Instead of focusing on some random family in Russia that they had to rescue, like they're like the last people living in this one giant city. It's a toxic waste dump. They're living there, and they focus so much on them that they cut that out and took the time to focus actually on the real characters in the movie. And I was dying because those characters made no sense. It didn't make sense why he picked that place. At least in the Snyder Cut, it explained he needed that nuclear fallout radiation to help fuel what he's doing. Like Whedon, and I read something, he is done. Like because of his problems that he has, but he is just bad to work with. I think we've seen, like he's obviously not a guy for DC Comics.
No, and he didn't get along with the Marvel folks either, which is disappointing because the first Avengers I thought was so great and I loved it. But then again, he had full control over that, and then all of a sudden it just rubbed people the wrong way, and they said, you know what, we don't even want to work with you anymore. I don't care how good of a director you are. you're just a dick and just go away. So
Yeah.
he's pissed off people at Marvel. He's pissed off people at DC. I mean, what is he gonna? What else is there? What's another obscure comic book studio out there that he could make? But he is done. I agree.
Yeah.
He's done.
We'll touch real quick because there's not a lot to talk about because our third man jumped in. But I just want to touch on the last thing that dropped on Friday night was what we've been waiting for: the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I liked it. It was action packed to start with. Like you could see the momentum in it. I don't know about you. Did you feel like it fizzled out near the end? Like it just got kind of like you turned into a drama. Like you were like, all right, like
yeah. At times it was a little boring. Yeah, the opening fight scene with Falcon in the air was awesome. Right, lots of good action there. But I understand it's the first episode. That's how I'm looking at it. It's Falcon and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I haven't even shared a screen together yet. Right in that first episode, they weren't at all in the same scene, and that's what the show was really about. It's like a buddy whatever. It's like a buddy cop, but there's a buddy superhero movie. So in a way, I like that it was a bit boring to help build up the story. It's only going to get better from here. I think it was just the first episode to just kind of kick things up and get things going. So I'm willing to save it for the next episode to see where this thing goes.
Yeah, I like I said, there's not a lot to talk about because it wasn't a lot of reveal or anything in it that was exciting. The only thing that I saw is when the pseudo new Captain America rolled out. All I could think of was when the guy walked out. I was hoping they got the guy from The Boys. What's his name?
Oh yeah.
He would have. He would have been such a good to see his face wearing the Captain America costume. I would have died laughing. But anyways,
Homelander.
Thank you, Jarvis.
Thank you for jumping in there, John.
Yeah, it's been so long ago since I watched that. But anyways, well, hopefully next week because there's only 6 episodes, so hopefully the momentum it has to pick up because you only have 5 more episodes. I mean, you can't be wasting all this time talking to his sister like they were in this.
That part was.
There was a lot with his sister.
It's so boring.
Can we move on? All right, we got our third man in. He's here. He's ready. He's our source of information. I'm here to keep this under a controlled time period, so these guys will not be patting themselves on the back for the next hour or so. Welcome, Jarvis. Let's just jump into football. I'm not sure where you want to start, Big Meat. There's been a couple signings. I know the big news is Ndamukong Suh for Tampa re-signed. That defense, they found money.
They brought everybody back.
So I'm going to ask this again. Where are they ranked for NFL defenses for fantasy perspective? They got Ndamukong Suh. Almost, I think everybody's back. Mm-hmm. Where do you see them next season going in the draft?
For a defense, I don't know if it's the best defense, but I still think they'll be top 5 for sure. They're going to be one of the first defenses to be picked. I still think the Rams are right there. They're solid all throughout defensively. I think they were the best defense in the league last year. I think Washington is still going to be pretty good.
But I think just the fact that it's Washington, people might shy away and lean towards Tampa Bay over Washington.
Yeah, but Washington is, I think you mentioned this last time, Jarvis, that Washington's offense could hinder a little bit of their defense, but who was the quarterback that they just picked up? Who was Washington's new quarterback?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yes, Fitzmagic. Terry McLaurin is not, a bad receiver. They have Antonio Gibson. He's a good running back. They don't have a terrible offense. If it was Alex Smith coming back, maybe I'd say, okay, but Fitzmagic could do enough to move the ball, And I read the other day too, that the guy that they're probably going to be targeting in the draft is that guy Smith, the wide receiver Smith from Alabama. Dante Smith. Did I say that right? Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I think it's Devontae Smith.
Smith.
There's 2 wide receivers out of Alabama.
So they get him. That could end up being not just a really good offense. With the defense as well, that could be a surprise team. And I also read today too that they want to stick with a Washington football team name. What is that? What garbage is that? Well, you give yourself a good team name. Why? You're gonna the Washington football team? That's just.
They said it's growing on people, is what it was.
It's not growing on me.
You know what's growing on them? the interest in N'Keal Harry. Have you
I
guys
heard
seen
that
some
too.
of that?
Yeah, I heard that too.
I am dying for
Ugh.
them to get rid of N'Keal Harry. I'm sorry. I don't care what way. I don't want to get to a debate about it. Trade, cut, get him off the freaking Patriots.
You just want to be right.
It's not even about right.
Yes,
I
it is.
don't-
It's only about being right.
Everything
for you.
I've read says it doesn't make sense for the Patriots. Like, what are they going to do with them? With all the people they brought in, where does he fit?
No. The answer is, what are they going to do with him because they still have Cam Newton, a quarterback? Had they brought in somebody else, N'Keal Harry would be a better fit.
You know, look at it's. I'm not going down the Cam Newton road because we still have to wait and see. The noise is something's happening on the draft. That's the noise. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But we'll
Ooh,
see.
Mac Jones. Ooh.
I think
Mac
they
Jones
moved
is
away
coming.
from.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he's coming to the Pats.
See, Mac Jones being right for big meat is going to hurt us more. Like that grin will be ridiculous. If N'Keal Harry gets traded, I'll just say I'm right. I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to be grinning from ear to ear like, "Oh, I told you. I've been telling you for 5 months."
I don't know. You might do that.
So I actually went back regarding. So thank you for bringing up Mac Jones because now I'm going to go on a Mac Jones tangent again. This might go 3 hours, Azar. Whether you're on this podcast or not, this might go 3 hours because I'm going to
take control away from you. I got to shut this thing down. He's like, boom, power it down.
So the first time people were ever linking Mac Jones to the Patriots was after the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl was January 30th, right? Mac Jones didn't even play in the Senior Bowl. That's just because the Patriots scouts were there and they just happened to talk to Mac Jones. By the way, they talked to everybody while they were there. But it was just from that point on. Look at every article out there. It talks about Mac Jones being linked a little bit to the Patriots. When I first mentioned Mac Jones, that was January 27th. That was 3 days before the Senior Bowl. Nobody was talking about Mac Jones coming to the Patriots until I brought it up. And then so that's what happened. Bill Belichick listens to our podcast. He heard what I said. He went to the Senior Bowl and said, "You know what? Big Meat's got a point. I'm going to talk to Mac Jones at the Senior Bowl." And ever since then, that's what's happening. Everyone's talking about Mac Jones coming to the Patriots. It's going to happen. 15th overall, Mac Jones. He's going to back up Cam Newton. Cam Newton's going to get injured because he's due. He's due to get injured. Mac Jones is going to come in. He's going to be the next Tom Brady for the next 20 years for the Patriots. You heard it here first.
Bold predictions. Bold predictions. Well,
I hope so.
Big Meat, you know what? It would quiet Jarvis's rage if there at least is a backup plan to Cam Newton. He wants a solid backup plan. That's all he's looking for. He's not asking for much. Give him something beyond Cam Newton to worry about.
That's all.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, James White signed with the Patriots again today. It's just a few more bounce passes to James White from Cam Newton to see this year. Like, what the hell? That's like James White is only good for his catches out of the backfield. What good is that when Cam Newton's throwing to you? It just doesn't make a lot of sense there.
Well, he needs a good safety valve. Like, you need a good safety valve for him. I mean, what else?
So
can't
much
throw
for
to him.
Damian Harris.
I think that's better for Damian Harris. I'm glad they didn't bring in Fournette or Chris Carson. That means that Harris is going to get the bell.
If
Harris gets the bell, we're good.
You don't like Fournette, you're gonna get going here if you.
Here's why I don't. Here's why I don't like Fournette. I don't like Fournette because I like Harris. We don't need Fournette. I'd rather see Harris get more opportunity. Mm-hmm. We already got to deal with Sony freaking Michelle still here for another year. Can't wait till his ass get cuts.
Is Harris bigger or the same size as Fournette? It's like, do they have a true goal line back for the Patriots? Because they were using Cam Newton as their goal line back. No, but that's what I mean. Like, who is their big-bodied?
He did have 12 rushing touchdowns, Jarvis. He did have 12.
Ugh, stop throwing stats. He sucked.
I'm just saying, 12 rushing touchdowns.
Good God, he sucked. Stop it.
In 15 games.
Damian Harris is 5'10", probably listed at 5'11" because there's fractions. He's 216 pounds. Fournette in contrast is 6 feet tall, 240 pounds.
See, Fournette is more of a big bruising goal line back.
So Cam Newton's a big enough guy. If
I'm gonna go off if you say his name again.
Wait a minute. 4th and goal or 4th and 1. you're probably just going to give it to Cam Newton. But why not Damian Harris at the goal line? Why not? I mean, you have guys throughout
Damian Harris
NFL history.
He runs harder than that. He runs harder than 5'11", 216. He runs like he's 5'11", 225.
But everybody just looks at it and says, well, you need this big bruising Derrick Henry type back. Well, why?
Nobody said that. Like, you said Cam Newton. No, you and I both have said Damian Harris is fine.
I was just saying that do they need one? Because they didn't really rely on Damian Harris for the goal line. They kept giving it to Newton. That's what I was asking.
See, I think we're in agreement, Jarvis. I just
get mad when you say Cam Newton.
Just say Cam Newton is Cam Newton's there. But I think he's an extra option there if you want to do a quarterback sneak or whatever.
How come you haven't mentioned Sony Michel on the goal line?
You know what? Just don't get me going with Sony Michel, because if they cut him today, I will throw a party and everybody's invited.
I better be invited.
I love it. The N'Keal Harry and Sony Michel party. Going away party. Let it get going.
Sony Michel. Just that name just makes me cringe.
Sony Michel, also 5'11", 216.
So they're the same
identical to Damian Harris, except he has Lawrence Maroney syndrome.
So did you guys find the news that Deion Branch feels that the combination of Henry and Jonnu Smith could be a better combination than Gronk and Aaron Hernandez? Did you guys find that little bit of information intriguing?
Well, I did not hear that.
I thought that was a given, considering Hernandez is out killing people. So, I mean, if you're talking setting the standard for model Patriots, I think we're doing better than that with Sony Michel and N'Keal Harry.
And is he talking about that like today? Because like Hernandez is 6 feet under.
Today.
Like today? Yeah, today.
Oh,
he might be better than today.
This is why you guys can't be left alone. This is why you two can't be left alone on a podcast. Jeez, where are we going with this? I was just shocked that someone like Deion Branch to say such a bold statement. Like, why? He's not part of the team. Why come out and endorse this combination?
Aaron Hernandez still runs a great dig route.
Oh boy, Jarvis is tired tonight. Jarvis,
he killed it when he was on the field, though. Let me tell you,
he killed it even more when he was off the field.
Oh God, the humor is brutal. Ugh, the vomit. All right, folks, you can shut off the podcast now. We're done. We've petered out here with this humor. All right, listen, clowns. Let's go back to this little fantasy value here. Golladay going to the Giants. How are your thoughts about that? That was a big trade. That was a big pickup for them. But the quarterback situation is still.
It's Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I tell you what, is Saquon Barkley healthy, and did they fix the offensive line? Then Galladay's decent. Yeah. If Barkley is a hot mess like he's been last year with the injuries and the O-line sucks, doesn't matter. Jones is going to get banged around. He's going to be Sam Darnold 2.0, and woohoo, Golladay will be Jamison Crowder 2.0. Yeah.
I think he's got the potential to stretch the field and be a good fantasy. Daniel Jones does throw the ball around. I mean, it's not like
so didn't Sam Darnold. Had a shitty offensive line and no running back.
Yeah, I felt like those two quarterbacks were very similar. Like when I thought of those two, they're kind of hand in hand. Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. I felt like they're kind of two of the same quarterbacks there.
Jets were.
I agree, though. The O-line is the biggest thing there. If the O-line is strong and they're running the ball and Saquon Barkley stays healthy, Golladay would be a good, nice extra pickup there to help stretch the field.
Well, what if they do in the draft? What if they do make some moves and improve the line? Would you consider Daniel Jones as someone you draft as a backup quarterback to keep just in case he explodes?
I'm not looking at
too many quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Too many quarterbacks.
I'd
rather have Cam Newton. Yes, Travis, I said it.
I might look at second running back with Saquon Barkley, depending on what's there. And I might look at like a third wide receiver at Golladay if he's there, if he's better than the other options. But I'm not touching a Giant as my primary option.
Wow. Anywhere. So you'd pat Saquon Barkley, not even in the first round for you, if he was came down to you?
Nope.
Wow, big meat. That's a big name to let slide.
Yep. Not even if you're taking 10th.
Okay, so what's the difference between 10 and 11? I'd let him slide to the 11th out of spite.
That's
what about 9th? All right, I gotta say 9. What about because they're 9?
If you're gonna ask a stupid question, you're gonna get a stupid answer. Why don't you just say it, Jarvis? Jesus Christ!
All right, maybe at 9th. I would take him. I mean, it depends on the landscape.
Well, you would take him in the first round. Yes.
I mean, late first round.
At that point, you either continue your run of running backs, or you take a Tyreek Hill.
Well, that's
Devontae
just it.
Adams.
Like, what am I looking at the end of the first round? Am I looking at a bunch of wide receivers and he's the only running back left? Because then I'll take him and take one of the receivers. But like, if the run splits and there's 3 running backs, one of them Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edward-Helaire and Josh Jacobs, let's say, right? So say those 3 are kicking the round.
Did he just say Clyde Edward-Helaire?
But I mean,
okay,
you better say Joe Mixon.
You might take him.
No, I didn't say Joe Mixon, but like you let something like that. So I'm just using those picks based on last year's draft.
DeAndre Swift?
Right.
Talking about you gotta pick a lion. Gotta pick a lion in the draft.
If you let 3 picks slide, you can take the receiver, a better receiver, and get one of those 3 back in the second round. And I don't, at that point, if you're still looking at 3 comparable picks, you can't trust Saquon Barkley. Talent is there, but he hasn't been healthy. So I don't know. What's the difference if you get a healthy running back versus Saquon Barkley, who's uber talented but can't stay on the field? So I would look at potentially late first round, 7, 8, 9, depending on what's been taken previously.
Wow. That's a
I think
big slide.
This year in fantasy, if you look at like the early mock drafts, if you're picking at the end of the draft, it's not that strong. It really drops. I mean, you want to be picking, obviously the top 4 is always going to be strong. 5, 6, once you get to 7 or 8, it does drop. Then you got to start reaching. Then you got to start settling for wide receivers. You got to start, if you want Tyreek Hill or Devon, or like Josh Jacobs, now that Kenyon Drake went there, like, do you want to risk taking Josh Jacobs now? Like, it really does. A lot of question marks there at the end of the first round now.
Right. Yes. I mean, we'll see. But like, I can tell you right now, if I'm looking at a list and Saquon Barkley is ranked number 5, I'm looking at 3 running backs I would take before him that are below him. So I'm looking at 7, 8, 9, and that's maybe depending on what wide receivers. But if any running backs slide and wide receivers go ahead of that in the top 7, I would consider passing on Barkley if I had picks 5, 6, or 7, depending.
Okay. Well, we're going to do a running back episode at some point once the draft is over and we have a better sense of what's going on. But that's interesting that Saquon Barkley's fallen from grace. Speaking of another guy that used to be a big name, well, actually never consistent enough, but Todd Gurley is no longer with Atlanta. He got let go and replaced with Mike Davis from Carolina, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He was filling in for CMC during that rough stretch when CMC was injury riddled. Big pickup for Atlanta. I don't know. Do you think Mike Davis has the potential to have a breakout year as the lead back in Atlanta? Matt Ryan's still there. Julio Jones is still there. I don't even know if Julio is still considered the number 1 there.
No, it would be Ridley at this point. Well, Julio because of his salary, but Ridley will probably get the looks. But I mean, how do you feel about Devontae Freeman 2 years ago? How'd you feel about, Michael Turner?
We all know how Jarvis Azar feels about Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, we all know. But Mike Davis is a different style of back. He's not he's a pounding back. He's not He's not a third, like Devontae Freeman to me was always like a very fancy third down back.
No, that was Tevin Coleman. Freeman was a little bit more traditional than that.
That's what we thought. And then when Freeman had the chance to do it on his own, he couldn't. And then Coleman could do it on his own, he couldn't. Like they both complemented each other.
Style-wise, Coleman was really good at that James White role, and Freeman would be what we're talking about Damian Harris being. Like, do you still have that elusive back, but he's not the bruiser? I don't know. Nothing in Atlanta excites me. Even those wide receivers don't excite me. Like, Ridley was good, but like, what's Matt Ryan going to do? Is he even? I don't know.
How about you said I'm curious to know what the other running backs are that that were ranked lower than Barkley. Is Kamara on that list? Because without Drew Brees now, what is Kamara going to do?
He's ranked high still.
He is ranked high, but I mean, when Drew Brees wasn't in there, Kamara didn't do anything. I mean, I just feel like Kamara's value comes in the passing game with Drew Brees throwing him the ball, and without him there, is it Jameis Winston or Hill, whoever it is going to be a quarterback? I think Kamara's value drops, but he's so highly ranked, he's going to end up being a first-round pick, and he could end up burning somebody badly if they take Kamara.
Yeah, but maybe, maybe it's definitely a concern. But I think now that he's healthy, he survived a year healthy. Barkley did not. Winston at least puts up points. Yeah, he throws picks, but he stretches the field. That'll give Kamara options. It'll give Kamara space. I still think Kamara has a higher ceiling than Barkley, given with the history, with the injury factored in. Without it, obviously Barkley's the top talent, one of the top 2 talents in the league. But with the injury, he's injured significantly 2 years in a row, and his team is downgrading offensive line help as of now.
Well, I'm looking at a list myself here, and there are a couple guys here that I wasn't even thinking about, and Nick Chubb is one of them. I think Nick Chubb is great. I think Ezekiel Elliott is still going to be great, depending on what the hell happens with Dak Prescott's leg. But Jonathan Taylor, he's another one. I think he's going to end up having a big year in Indianapolis, so he's going to end up being a first rounder. So there are still a good amount of running backs. It just depends. Where do you take Barkley in a mix and Kamara in within that mix? I mean, you're talking that those are like the top 7 or 8 or so picks there, and then it really drops. Because after that, I'm reading names off this list here. Yeah, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders. These are the running backs that are next.
No, James
on
Robinson,
this list that I'm looking at.
Aaron Jones, Antonio.
Aaron Jones
Gibson,
is one. Yeah, I didn't mention him. He was in the
top
10. But I mean, but after that, that's that's what you get. You get
Kareem
Akers,
Hunt.
Dobbins, Sanders, Jacobs, Gibson, Mixon, Eckler. Like these guys.
What about Damon Harris?
He's way down.
Move him up.
Yeah, I mean he's 30. He's number 34 overall, but it's because you don't trust Patriot backfield. That's what it is. You just Cam Newton vulturing touchdowns. You guys already pointed it out. Is going to ruin Damian Harris's stock.
Damian Harris is after guys like Zach Moss and Myles Gaskin. I mean, it's the Patriots.
What if they pick up a guy like, what if Sony Michel gets cut and they do pick up a rookie quarterback one way or another? And so I would say Damian Harris would be more of a focal point in the offense at that point, right?
Yeah, but we're homers listening to what's going on with the Patriots' third string running back, second string running back. National guys are talking about Christian McCaffrey and Kamara.
Yeah, well, we're a little bit more diverse. We try to give.
That's why the rankings don't look the same.
So you need to drink, Jarvis, before these podcasts. It actually, for you, it is a requirement. You're just so down today. You're just bringing the whole podcast.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what? You got to remember. Is
it just me? Because I heard
it
you
is a little low energy. Little low energy. It's low energy, Jarvis, today. I got to say though, last week when you left us. Well, no, you were actually on with us, Azard. I felt like, that was the podcast that we were all happy. The Patriots signed all these guys. We're like, all right, the Patriots are back. And it was all doom and gloom by Jarvis. It's like, who are these guys? They're not going to do anything. Cam Newton sucks. So,
are we getting a special guest tonight? I think we're getting a special guest.
What is happening here? What is this?
I think, is it possible that Barry McCockiner is on the line with us tonight?
Barry McCockiner is joining us live on the podcast.
Oh, no, we got a special guest. Is he on? Can you hear us?
Yeah, Barry's here.
Barry, great to have you on the podcast. Do you have any? I'm just curious. You've been breaking a lot of news lately in sports today, particularly the NFL. Do you have any breaking news for us that you want to share on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I broke it the other day that Deshaun Watson was getting released, but I got an even better one from my cousin. My cousin called me just a few hours ago. Phil McCracken, you know him?
I've actually followed Phil McCracken. He's a great, reliable source.
Yeah, Phil
Tell
McCracken.
us more, Barry.
Yeah, Phil McCracken called me, and apparently they decided not to release Watson, and they're going to go ahead and make a trade with Tampa Bay because Watson wants to be closer to, Tampa Bay for you know why, right? So yeah, so Brady's going to Houston to meet up with Casario.
Oh, that is a big, bold trade. I think that would be That would shake up the NFL completely. Now, are you saying that he's Watson's making this move just so we can go to that? What is that place? The Orchids of where Bob Kraft has a stake in?
No, that's down in Florida, a little south. He wants to stay in Tampa. There's more.
Oh, I see.
More strip clubs per capita there is what I heard. I don't know.
So Barry, I want to ask you. So you're pretty well known in breaking these kind of like these news, just coming out with these great announcements, great news announcements. How are you getting all these like? Do you have a close connection with NFL teams? Like, how are you close with Adam Schefter? How are you doing it exactly?
Nope, no research, just shooting from the hip here.
Well, I know you got, he's blushing right now, but you do have a major follower and a large fan that's on this podcast. You might not have known it, but our man Jarvis, he follows you very religiously and shares all of your breaking news with his friends. So he clearly has a lot of respect for you. So once again, audience, if you don't know, we have Barry McCockiner on the line right now sharing, who's gracious to join us, especially with this breaking news. Jarvis, do you have any words? I mean, this is someone that you religiously follow. Please take this opportunity. We'd hate to waste the chance of talking to Barry McCockiner now.
I can't even compose myself.
Oh, see, Barry, you have an effect on him. You have a real effect.
I do have to say, I gotta appreciate the retweet and all that stuff, because I think my followers like tripled when he did that.
Oh, now did a name? Because I know someone else that likes to break news on our podcast. His name is Roper. Did he show up on your Twitter feed as someone that's following you?
Nah, I don't think he knows Twitter.
Oh, he doesn't know Twitter? Oh,
he's like Belichick. He calls it like face tweet and stuff, and I don't think he's with the times.
Well, I'm sure with our man Jarvis retweeting your things, your popularity is definitely going to grow moving forward. We're looking for your breaking news.
Oh, this is terrible.
Adam Schefter's got nothing on you, Barry. I gotta tell you.
Barry McCockiner in the flesh.
Barry
McCockiner in the flesh.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Well, it's great having you on, Barry.
All the invites we've given to Barry, he finally shows up.
Well, I mean, this one here, I mean, you tripled my following, so I feel like I kind of had to.
Barry, I got to tell you, not a more regrettable moment of my life is when I shared that. That was just about the most regrettable thing. And I'll tell you what, Barry, I don't know if you probably don't know, but there's some people who genuinely hated your intent to spread news. And I got to tell you, there's this guy that we talked to. His name's R3. He's so angry and he hates anything that comes out of my mouth, even when it's a mistake. And Barry, I shared one of your mistakes and I will acknowledge that, but this guy R3 absolutely hates you. I think he was ready to he wrote a death threat to me, and I just assumed that he meant sending it to you. I just want to know how you feel about that now that your followers have tripled, your death threats have tripled as well, because that's what happens.
Funny you should mention that. I did get this scathing email by this dude R3. What is his problem?
He's just angry. He's angry all the time.
Yeah, he's so angry. You know what it is? He's got this ruppet. And a ruppet is like a bunion on your asshole. It just, every time you speak, it kind of like rubs and twists. And I think he's angry because his ruppet ruptures and just like oozes over, and it just becomes a nasty little thing. It's like I don't know, it's like an Antifa wart or something. And when you have a ruppet and you have good news like Barry McCockiner in the flesh here sharing with us, I feel bad, Barry, that I had to subject you to such misery and anger and hate. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
I like you got a positive attitude, Barry. I apologize. Jarvis has been dark all podcast. He's just been in the dumps. He's still a little depressed that Sony Michel is still on the roster, and he keeps feuding with our friend R3 about it. But when Jarvis doesn't get his way, this is how he gets. So I apologize if he's not coming off a lot of energy and excitement for you. But we're excited to have
meet
you.
Barry.
This has been a real treat to having you onto this podcast tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Sorry, I gotta go. Cousin Phil's calling. He might have another banger.
Well, don't be a stranger, Barry. Don't be a stranger.
The big announcement.
Next time, retweet.
Keep us in the loop.
Schefter into it.
Keep us in the loop, Barry.
All right.
Great job, Barry. Keep it up.
Thanks again, Jarvis, for tripling my followers.
Sorry for the death threats from R3.
Oh, well played.
Boy. I can't believe you guys got Barry McCockiner in the flesh.
Oh, Barry's still lingering on.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was excellent. We got somebody just jumping on, joining us now. He must have been listening. It's R3 in the flesh. Hey, what's up, R3?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good.
Good timing, R3.
David Allen Boucher.
You just missed Barry McCockiner.
Oh,
he was on our podcast.
You mean Jarvis's favorite fake tweeter?
Listen, I had to apologize to him because you're so mean.
Goes by the handle Ultra Weed Hater. Yeah, that's a good dude to repost tweets and break news with. Well done.
Listen,
yeah, I didn't know he was late real at night until he called. That was just amazing.
No, now I'm going to follow him because I want all the breaking news and I want to be the first one to announce any big trade if Deshaun Watson gets released. Big story.
I think he was also the same one that he had another post that popped up as Adam Schefter, and I fell for that one the second time. That happened in the past.
Are you saying you're gullible, Jarvis? Is that what you're telling us? Are you?
Nope.
Are your sources the same as Roper's, where Gilmore's going to the Browns? Are those the same sources?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
To credit Roper, he was one of the only ones I think to question it. I have to admit, I was trusting my man Jarvis that he knew his business, and I went, "Wow, really?" And I immediately started like, "Oh, here comes the exempt commissioners list, right? Maybe the Patriots. Do they do it? Does Kraft like share a special appreciation for Watson now, given what he's gone through?" And then I started trying to find the tweet, trying to find anything, any credible source. And then lo and behold, Barry McCockiner shows up. And I'm like, there's no way. Just read the first name and it's no first and last name. Absolutely not. And I think Roper was one of the ones that questioned it. So I gotta give him some credit here. But Lord,
well, what happened is and if something like that comes out, if you Google it, if you just Google the name and nothing pops up, then it's not legit because Google will find everything. It might not be on ESPN, it might not be on NFL.com, but if you Google it, it'll pop up somewhere, usually on some social media, Twitter feed somewhere. So when I didn't see it,
you're right. You nailed me on my DD. I didn't vet the source. I saw Adam Schefter. And I didn't look at the name. I just saw that it was Adam Schefter was tagged in it on a retweet, but it was a retweet of the image, not the title. And I just sent it off into your text thread that I immediately regretted it when I realized I didn't.
I gotta say, Jarvis, it made me laugh so hard last night, and I couldn't stop. Every time I reread, I started giggling. I couldn't stop.
Bad. It was
great.
So bad.
It made my night.
There's a reason why our local TV show that Jarvis, I know you are so fond of.
The Young Rock?
No. Did I say TV show? Sorry, I meant sports talk show. There's a reason why they follow the blue hashtag tweet before they break the news.
Adam Schefter has a blue check mark.
But Adam Schefter didn't tweet that.
But it looked like he did. You understand? It looked like he did.
You're also probably the same guy who gets the phone call and then goes and buys the like 17, Home Depot credit cards and series of $100 to pay off a bill too, right? You fall for that one too.
Now that Barry has been on our podcast, Barry McCockiner is gonna have his own blue check mark on his as well. He's gonna become legit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
We need to have him back on after the draft. I think that's where McCockiner will be. Well,
What? It's a good thing there's not a lot of people on our thread because the guy probably would have got famous off of Jarvis.
Probably
fake
is.
tweeting.
Not with you sending him death threats.
It was brilliant.
I would never do such a thing.
Yeah. It penned in the writing of your Ruppet Antifa.
Oh, I could potentially try to hire him to do that.
Yeah. I'm gonna run by your house, write a death threat. Okay. That's pretty much how the conversation would go.
All right, we got to get back to football talk here, boys. So,
alrighty. Well, I
ask Godfrey his opinion. His opinion on Cam Newton's very different than mine. Ask him what he thinks of Damian Harris and Sony Michel.
Bring it on.
You know my opinion of Cam Newton, right? He is a very serviceable quarterback, and he can get them into the playoffs. Your idea of Fitzmagic and all these other scrubs.
So good.
Take a look at the stats.
I can't wait till Washington has a better record than the Patriots.
I will admit, Cam Newton.
I'm drafting Washington defense #1 overall.
Are you going to let me talk, or are you just going to keep cutting? You asked me my opinion, and then you can.
Because I don't value it. Okay.
Yeah, put yourself on mute and take a seat. So, Cam Newton is a very serviceable quarterback. He is not the greatest. He's not the top 10, arguably maybe not top 15, but he's better talent-wise than all the scrubs you have listed in our text message thread.
Pretty sure he's not better than the top 28.
Mariota, all these stiffs that took more guaranteed money or got paid more than Cam Newton in an incentive-laden contract, which will allow them to cut him if they can make a deal and get a quarterback in the draft. If Jimmy Garoppolo becomes available via release because nobody will trade for him. Mariota just took a sweetheart contract renegotiation cut. I think his base salary is now like $3 million. Now, is that to stay with the Raiders or not? Who knows? But now all of a sudden that contract becomes a lot more valuable.
Trade potentials are right there on draft day.
Yeah, absolutely. And when draft day comes along, they can introduce more. I think at least 1 year additional first round picks, or it includes the next year. So more to come, I think. They're definitely not going to just sit back with Cam and only Cam. I think they have.
So what you're saying is they need something better than Cam Newton.
No.
I'm glad we agree.
Nope. Don't even try that. Nope.
Mac Jones.
I think, yeah, but Cam's going to carry him next year, right?
I can't wait till Ryan Fitzpatrick has more
fantasy
touchdowns and more wins than the Patriots with the Washington football team.
All right. See, I didn't think we were going to talk about Cam Newton all this much, but we're into Cam Newton discussion here. If regarding fantasy, right? If we take fantasy football, where would you rank Cam Newton right now? R3. Where would you rank him in quarterbacks in fantasy?
Do it the other way. Who would you rank below him? Because it's a shorter list.
Because I can tell you, I'm looking at a list right here for top quarterbacks ranked. Early ranking, of course, a lot of things change, but I got him ranked as 27th. The 27th ranked quarterback behind guys like Garoppolo and Goff, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't even been drafted yet. He's ranked ahead of Cam Newton.
I'm not going to try to speak to fantasy because that's a different ballgame. We're talking football. Fantasy, if we're strictly talking fantasy, yeah, his value is not that great because he's not going to throw for 5,000 yards or 4,000 yards, maybe not even break 3,000 yards
or 2,000,
but
2,000 or
I
double-digit touchdown passes.
No, come on. With the talent that he has now, I would expect double-digit touchdown passes. 15 to 20 touchdown passes.
You could throw more touchdown passes in that offense than he can. You can actually throw the ball in the air. There's a difference. Fundamental quarterback need to throw the ball in the air, not into the dirt.
The bar we set for Cam Newton is that hitting double digits is just, it could be 10. He could just get a couple more touchdowns. Digits. So it's not really
20.
asking a lot.
I said, I think last week's podcast or the week before, I think he doubles his touchdown passes to 16. It goes from 8 to 16. 16
so we're
still
in
not
agreement.
great.
Somewhere in that 15 to 20 range.
And he doubles his interceptions too.
Oh, I mean, he's a tight end quarterback, right? Greg Olsen made a lot of money because Cam Newton. So we brought in 2 great tight ends. I think they're going to pound the ball. So
that's
Sony Michel,
that's a good angle. Arthur.
Damian Harris, all those, it's going to be a heavy run. They're probably going to run the ball 30 to 40 times, and Cam Newton 25 throws.
Well,
Complete half of it, and get a touchdown or two every other game. Throwing the ball, one running every other game. I think that's the game plan. Strong defense, pound the ball, and try to squeak it out.
Well, I got to say,
third in the AFC East.
R3, even though we've portrayed him as this dark force on the podcast, just listening to him, looking at the screen, he's brighter. He's just more energetic and positive. Maybe we got the anger and rage on the wrong person, because you look at Jarvis sitting on his screen. It looks like he has horns coming out of his head. It's dark. He's got this like his big strawberry face right in the screen. Like, I got to wonder.
I have to correct you there. Tomato face.
Tomato face. Well, it's shaped like a strawberry. I don't know how you can call it. So
yeah, R3 does seem a bit cool, calm, and collected on this. It's not an accurate depiction of R3 for the podcast. We want angry.
There's a reason why it's random rage, right?
That's true. That's true.
That is
so yes,
it's when he's triggered is the scarier part. It's when he's triggered. It's stand back. Jarvis is just angry all the time now. I don't know what's the matter with this guy.
You keep needling me.
No. Seeing how King Peppy has been now relegated to peasant troll, the triggering is less than it used to be. He's no longer king of the trolls with his last breaking news tweet. Seeing how he got trolled
Barry
himself.
Screwed me. Yeah. Maybe I'll send death threats to Barry. I'm going to send him a flaming pink Buccaneers hat.
You know what I do love about this is that next time Jarvis throws up the whole Mahomes thing and misspelling, I'm just going to bring up Barry McCockiner. So that's all I got to do.
That will never end.
Like one misspell is one thing. Misspelling is one thing, but retweeting like a fake story, that is just...
You know that anytime anybody says anything on the text thread and somebody asks, what's the source? You know what the answer is going to be.
Barry McCockiner.
Barry McCockiner.
Such a fail.
It's a good thing one of our friends that used to be on our thread who made everyone cite their sources is no longer in that thread, because you would have
done me a favor.
Yeah, you thought I hit you bad with that one. Well, you would have been in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, I am feeling the shame on this one. I feel like the raccoon here. This is what the raccoon must feel like on the daily.
That's just cold. That's cold. Even he doesn't quote the wrong sources, though. He may not enjoy flavor, but he doesn't quote wrong sources.
How about Breakfast Boy? I feel like him on the daily. Oh, there you go. Podcast. Yeah. I feel like Breakfast Boy. What do we call him?
Oh,
he's a super spreader.
Super spreader. I feel like super spreader. That's super exactly who I feel like.
That's right. Or fathead. I guess fathead's a better.
This is what he feels like on the daily. It's just like you can't talk without getting it thrown right back in your face because you said something that dumb. It's just awful.
The nicknames are unlimited with him. It's super spreader, fathead, purple lightsaber. I mean,
yes,
you name it.
Captain Redbeard is my favorite.
Yep.
You just got to keep it simple. Keep it simple for the crowd.
All right, David Allen Boucher, get back over to your other radio station.
I don't want to jump in and ruin your podcasting here, but I got a text message on the side and said Barry was talking trash. I need to come out and defend my name here.
We appreciate it. Anytime, R3, when you want to come in and take Jarvis down. I know after the draft you might want to jump in and quell him, because he's going to be raging no matter what. We might have to bring in Antifa boy to defend some of his predictions, because
that's what you're going to need. You're going to need to do like a live podcast from the draft and have Antifa tout all the picks, because we're going to need to record that, because I'm tired of listening to him tout how amazing all these freaking D3 draft picks are in the second round, and how he all of a sudden knew who they were when they were freshmen. Fuck out of here.
All right, we'll have to. All right, R3, thank you for jumping on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, R3.
My pleasure.
Next time,
have
bring the anger, because it doesn't justify the feud if it's just me being spiraling out of control.
It happens randomly, man. I can't just.
I tried probing you. You didn't take the bait. Azar defended you. He kept you calm.
You're no longer King Peppy, so it has to come from another source.
I know Bruce Banner. You got to keep him calm, because when the Hulk comes out, there's no way to calm him back down. So it takes a while to bring it down.
Yeah. All right. Good night, gentlemen.
All right. Good
night,
R3.
David.
Yeah,
Boucher.
All right. boys, I think I'm out of gas. After that special guest appearance, I don't even know where we go from here. I think this is probably the great way to wrap up the podcast. I mean, we had two special guests tonight, not just one.
Unbelievable.
That's
I can't
right.
believe
That
you
was
pulled this
great
off.
to have Barry McCockiner and then R3 join us. That's great. It's fine. It's nice to finally have. Well, I think this might be our 41st or 42nd podcast, and we finally
nice round
had
anniversary number.
Fourth guest. We had a fourth and fifth guest. Yeah. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, and I think after your 2.5 hour saga that you guys put together last week, I think a nice short podcast is well overdue for our crowds. And the fact that you treated them to special guests this week.
We didn't talk about Young Rock yet.
I have to finish it, actually.
He's got to finish it. All right, we'll save it for next week.
Hey, I had a beer though. You'd love it. It was actually a stout, and it was the I wanted to talk about it. It was raspberry French toast.
Ooh.
It's wicked. It's 12% alcohol, so it only comes in a 2-pack, and it's like $8 a beer, so it's $16 for the 2-pack.
Yeah, you shared that on the thread, right?
I shared it on the thread, but I wanted the listeners to know it's by Hubbard's Cave in Illinois is the brewery, and it was like your analysis of screwball whiskey compared to the others was what I compare this to, like all the other like cookie and cream stout. Like they all just missed the mark and taste like burnt coffee beans. This had a syrup flavor. It wasn't overpowering. It had a raspberry flavor that wasn't like extra tart, but it still had the stout kind of like darkness to it. I don't like those beers.
12% alcohol. Wow.
Oh yeah, I drank one on a walk today, and I was like yelling down the neighborhood.
It sounds delicious, though.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
Yeah, these stouts, they get you. I had one of mine, like 8%. I was like, wow, I'm already feeling it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's higher alcohol. Like it's not like just drinking like a beer. Like, and something about it being a darker beer. I don't know what it is about it, but it feels like it processes faster. Like you start feeling it.
12%. That's almost 3 times. Like that's drinking 3 beers in one. That's.
Look at that.
It's a tall can too.
Big Meat's eyes are just like glowing right now. 3 beers in one. That's
value.
value.
It's like, that's.
He's all about efficiency.
That means I could drink less of that beer and more of my peanut butter whiskey ice cream that I'm gonna find. And speaking of which, Jarvis, you jumped on after we discussed it a little bit, but you said you found some at your local supermarket. Telling you, if you happen to be in your local supermarket again and you have some, please pick some up. I will drive out to your neck of the woods, and I will pick some up if you do me that.
I'll verify tomorrow. I'll swing by and double check. But I was waiting in line because you got to go like the 6 feet in line to check out, but they don't have enough space, so that wraps you into like the dairy aisle. And I just happened to look up and notice it, but I was angry that I was in a 20-person line to go to the self-checkout, and I didn't even think of the podcast, but I should have.
You angry? I'm finding it hard to believe today. I don't know what. This is just not your character. All right. Well, that's a good recommendation. And you know what, Big Meat? I'm thinking of you. Your wife will never say anything because she says, how many beers have you had? It's 12% alcohol. You could just say, I had 2. I only had 2 beers. What's the big deal?
Exactly.
That's efficiency for you, Big Meat. No more being questioned.
I like it.
So the other thing,
I'll still end up drinking like 5 or 6 of those.
They only come in a 2-pack.
Well, then I'll get 3 of them, and I'll drink 6.
Meat, I want to. We got to get on a text thread and figure out like how we want to break down this IPA challenge, because there's like, so I saw one brand of beer, one brewery that had IPA, New England IPA, but a different brand, like a different name, but all still New England IPA. And I'm like, I just don't understand this IPA world. So it'd be worth it if we kind of dove in, because then there's New England Pale Ale, not just India Pale Ale. So what the hell's the difference there? I mean, just so many questions.
We got to do some research.
So many questions.
We got to get educated on that.
We do.
I'd love to do a beer tasting with someone that like sells this stuff, teaches you. Like, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised like one of these craft beer places doesn't do that unless you sample. Like they bring in a vendor to let you sample. Maybe they do before COVID, but I'm gonna ask next time I go into one of these craft. Like, do you guys ever do any like sampling? Maybe get them motivated to try to bring some people in. because I don't understand enough of it to understand why is this so much different than another brand. So
yeah, some of those guys are pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah, you know what would be good? We should just go to a local brewery that brews this stuff and ask one of the bartenders. Maybe they could teach us because they usually brew these kind of mix of different.
IPAs are the big one. There was one in downtown Lowell called Navigation Brewery that was right in the Western Ave Studios, and it was.
I went there with you. I went there once. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's open still, but once COVID kind of lets people go back and drink, it'd be worth figuring out exactly that, like what they're brewing and what the hell's an IPA.
Yeah. Well, the summer weather is now. I mean, the spring and summer weather is rolling in. So, like, I know the 603 brewery is open, so it might be worthwhile hitting there.
I just want to find out what the disgusting hops flavor is that goes into an IPA that they didn't put in the Sam Adams Wicked Double IPA that actually made it taste okay. I'm still curious. I want to know what that is. And that way, when I go into a bar, I could say, do you have those hops in that beer? So I know not to order it. Give me anything that doesn't have that in it. And once we figure out what that is, then we'll be good.
I can't wait to see the waitress's face when you ask her, do you have this hop? Can you please go back there and tell him, do you have these hops?
He's got the back of the bottle reading the label like Bavarian, coriander.
I shot my beer based on the hops that are in it. All right, boys. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up? You good, Big Meat?
I'm going to go bury my McCockiner.
No, I am good. You know what? I have no closing thoughts just after. This was a game-changing podcast, I think. This was
agree.
A game-changing podcast.
Yeah.
With Barry McCockiner on it. And R3 as well. That's just
yeah. Special shout out to those two for joining the podcast. Much appreciated. Made it more exciting.
I can feel the demise of I can feel my own personal demise here. You're gonna start mounting the guests against me and bury me into oblivion.
Never.
I'm gonna be a victim of cancel culture.
That would never happen. Oh, dude, I couldn't even imagine your look on your face if we bring an Antifa boy to rebuttal you. You'd be in horror. That might be a special guest one day. All right, boys.
All right.
It's been a great night. Gents. Love the podcast. As always, follow us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube. Until next week.
Peace.